Control made me feel like a badass, running through a sci-fi horror setting equipped with telekinesis powers and a gun that warps into various weapons. Control is just a good old adventure game that'll have you itching for the next upgrade. Control stars Jessie Faden, a woman equipped with a paranormal entity since she was a child. They share a close relationship where they telepathically speak to each other to analyze situations. With their help, Jessie stumbles upon the Federal Bureau of Control. Think of them as the CIA but for everything supernatural in the world. Their headquarters looks like a cross between a minimalist office building with the architecture of the future. It's a beautiful set piece where all of Control takes place. The building of the future cloaks itself from the public and contains what seems like an endless amount of space and secrets. Upon entering the building, Jessie discovers that a hostile force known as the Hiss has taken over the building, keeping everyone locked inside. It's up to you now, the newly appointed director of the Bureau, to defeat the Hiss and uncover what happened here. Along the way, Jessie will meet with other members of the facility, briefing her on what happened. One of the most notable supporting characters is Emily, a girl who's just excited to work at the Bureau and is easily intrigued by all that goes bump in the night. Her bright and energetic demeanor was infectious and it kept my spirits high the deeper I went into the facility.
And you entered the building when it was already in the lockdown before you became the new director? How?
I'm not ready to tell her about you yet.
A janitor let me in.
I love it. This is fucking unbelievable.
While the story slowly reveals itself through the internal monologues Jessie has and the conversations with other staff members, what I found particularly interesting was the storytelling done through exploring. Finding documents, tapes, and videos featuring live-action shots further elaborated on what happened here right before the invasion of the Hiss. Throughout the 15 to 20 hour story, I felt like this badass detective as I shot, launched, and explored everything in sight. While I wasn't too big on the storytelling for a Quantum Break, Remedy has picked themselves back up and truly delivered on a story worth investing in. Remedy has been known for creating these cinematic third-person shooter adventure games that cross gameplay with real-life footage. It was a prominent component in Quantum Break, and while it failed there, it soars in Control. Being built on the same engine used in Quantum Break, I wouldn't blame you if you confuse Control for a sequel. It isn't, but it does feel like an improvement from what Remedy has done before. Taking place entirely inside of a building, Control sounds like it's confined, but even in just this single world, this world is fascinating. From the beautiful architectural layouts of the building to the out-of-this-world warping done by the infectious Hiss. It looks like a cross between Ex Machina and Inception. Inside these walls are the infected, members of the Bureau who have been infected to the point of being completely converted, warped, or just left lifeless. You'll see them floating in midair or attacking you in waves as the red hues overtake the white walls of the facility. It's an eerie sensation to see these images, and it gives this horror feeling without fully limiting itself into the horror genre. Combat and Control feels simple, yet incredibly fun to perform. Like God of War's Leviathan throw, Jessie's telekinesis powers felt satisfying every time I had the chance to use them. Her combat arsenal is a cross between using a gun and her powers. Her gun, adopted from the previous director, is able to morph into various types of guns as you make your way through the campaign. These weapons can also be modded to add some buffs to your combat. Along with the gun, Jessie uses her psychic powers to demolish the Hiss. She's able to push people away with a sonic blast, launch objects at enemies, and create a shield with anything nearby. All of these powers could also be upgraded using ability points or mods that change up the stats on how they work. Jessie feels powerful, almost like a long-lost Chronicle movie character. I loved it, most of the time. I got addicted to throwing objects at enemies time and time again, sprinkling in some gunfire between throws. Over time though, I did notice that with only a pool of 5 to 6 enemy types, combat felt somewhat repetitive by the end of the game. When I wasn't fighting off the Hiss or helping someone with a mission, I was exploring using my psychic powers to solve puzzles and platform my way through the constantly changing facility. Puzzles would usually have me looking for switches or keys to activate hidden parts of the area. These would also introduce hints of platforming right before a combat sequence. These sections were rather simple and straightforward. Getting your way around the facility is kind of a mess. Don't get me wrong, I love finding new areas, hidden away items that either told me more about the story or upgraded my powers, but the minimap available is confusing to navigate. There's multiple floors that are hard to decipher, the map can't be zoomed in, and you constantly have to pull up the map to get around, slowing down the frame rate at times too. Luckily, you can fast travel to certain areas of the world, but these are only points you've already been to, leaving you to struggle with the map the next time you have a mission to a new area. Control is beautiful. The design of the architecture is stunning with the cinematic filter all over it. The use of red hues in mostly colorless rooms looked jaw-dropping every time I went to clear a room with a Hiss in it. Part of what made using psychic powers so addicting was the destructible environment. Throwing objects across the room and having it destroy the desk and other pieces around the office looks so cool. One of my favorite parts is just being able to use launch to have it rip part of the floor or the wall off nearby and see the destruction. It's oddly satisfying. The use of real-life footage mixed in with the gameplay was jarring at first, but over time I found it to be cleverly used to further elaborate on the story. Where Control does sadly struggle is in performance. Whether you're playing on PC or console, Control suffers from these weird framerate drop issues anytime you pause the game. Immediately upon hitting the resume option, I always noticed a framerate dip that had the framerate for a short time before quickly picking up the pace. In general though, you can expect a native 4K resolution on Xbox One X and an upscaled 4K on PS4 Pro, both targeting 30 frames per second. That's then dropped down to 1080p on PS4 and 900p on the Xbox One S. If you're dead set on playing at 60 frames per second, you'll want a PC with at least a 20 series card though. Control features an eerie soundtrack that helps develop the creepy atmosphere. The use of bass-heavy warp sounds and synthesizers sound like something ripped out of the movie Annihilation. Accompanying the subtle music is the brilliant sound design that went into combat. The crunch of brick and distorted bass when your psychic powers are used made the impact of every launch all the more satisfying. Actor performances were also impressive, with Courtney Hope as Jessie and Antonia Bernath as Emily being my two standout performances. Jessie's internal monologues to herself seem relatable and believable, while Emily's conversations with her were always the highlights in my campaign. Control weaves together an interesting story with one of the most fascinating settings I've experienced in a game this year. Having these psychic powers to take on enemies while firing an array of bullets is combat galore at its finest, even with the little variations in enemies. The performance could be a bit better on console, but not enough to ruin what is otherwise a fantastic adventure to go on.